The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself.
For 10 years, she was the face of stoic denial. Donna Adelson, the wealthy matriarch of a prominent Florida family, projected an image of unwavering strength, a loving grandmother caught in a tragic nightmare she claimed she had no part in. She watched her own son get convicted and saw the investigation circle closer and closer, but she never cracked. But in the tense silence of a courtroom, all it took was a single word from a jury foreman to finally bring that carefully built facade crashing down. As the clerk's voice cut through the silent courtroom, the word, "guilty," was pronounced. A sharp gasp escaped Donna Adelson's lips. Her body began to tremble as she exclaimed, "Oh," and broke down, crying into her hands. This was the moment the 10-year mask didn't just slip, it crumbled. The breakdown was so immediate that the judge had to briefly halt the proceedings to allow her to compose herself. To understand what brought this once untouchable matriarch to a point of total collapse, we have to go back to the very beginning, to a bitter divorce and a desperate obsession with control that would end in a cold-blooded murder. The perfect family and the bitter feud. On the surface, the Adelsons were the picture of success. A wealthy, close-knit, and influential family from South Florida. At the head were Donna and her husband Harvey, with their son Charlie, a successful periodontist, and their daughter Wendy, a law professor at Florida State University. In 2006, Wendy married another brilliant FSU law professor, Dan Markel, a Harvard-educated scholar beloved by his peers and students. They built a life together in Tallahassee and had 2 young sons. But behind that facade of academic and domestic bliss, the marriage was falling apart. By 2013, Wendy and Dan's divorce spiraled into an intensely bitter custody battle. The heart of the conflict was Wendy's burning desire to move with her 2 boys back to South Florida to be closer to her family, a move Dan was dead set against. Donna, the family matriarch, was especially furious with the situation, desperate to have her daughter and grandsons home. A judge ultimately denied Wendy's relocation request, a decision that prosecutors would later argue sealed Dan Markel's fate. Feeling trapped, the family's animosity toward Dan festered. Wendy's brother, Charlie, even joked about hiring a hitman, suggesting it would be cheaper than the ongoing legal fight. July 18, 2014, started as a normal day for Dan Markel. He dropped his sons at preschool, hit the gym, and then headed home. As he pulled into his garage talking on his phone, he was ambushed. A neighbor heard 2 gunshots and ran over to find a horrific scene. Dan was slumped in the driver's seat of his car, his window smashed, after being shot twice in the head at point-blank range. Panic surged through Dan as he sprinted home, his heart pounding in his chest. Bursting through the front door, he fumbled for his phone with trembling hands and frantically dialed 911, his voice shaking as he tried to explain what had just happened.
911, what's the address of your emergency case then? Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
We heard him looked in, the garage door was up, and I thought the gentleman was backing out, and I went back to my house, but he never backed out, and I came back over, and his driver's side window is shattered, and he's battered and can't answer. He's inside. I don't know if somebody tried to shoot him or if he shot himself or what. I don't know. He didn't send an ambulance in a hurry. An EMT.
So you're saying his head is bloody now?
Yeah, it's been bloody. I mean, it's the window shattered. I don't know.
He was still alive when first responders arrived but would die in the hospital 14 hours later. Investigators were stumped. It wasn't a robbery or a home invasion. This was a professional, targeted hit. They knew from the start that Markel was the intended victim. The only clue they had to go on was a light-colored Toyota Prius seen speeding away from the neighborhood. For 2 long years, the case went cold, leaving Dan's family and a shocked community desperate for answers. All the while, investigators were painstakingly piecing together a dark and complex conspiracy. Unraveling the conspiracy. The first big break came in 2016 when police traced a rental Prius back to Miami. It had been rented by 2 men, Luis Rivera, a known Latin Kings gang member, and Sigfrido Garcia. Cell phone records placed them both in Tallahassee at the time of the murder, stalking Dan from his gym to his house. But these hitmen had no personal connection to the law professor. The real question was, who hired them? The answer came from a phone call. Immediately after the murder, Garcia's first call was to a woman named Catherine Magbanua, the mother of his children. Investigators soon discovered that Magbanua had a critical connection. She was the ex-girlfriend of Charlie Adelson, Dan Markel's former brother-in-law. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces started locking into place. Prosecutors alleged that a desperate Donna Adelson, along with her son Charlie, was the driving force behind a murder-for-hire plot. Charlie allegedly used Catherine Magbanua as the go-between to connect his wealthy family to the criminal underworld. She, in turn, recruited her ex, Sigfrido Garcia, and his friend Luis Rivera to carry out the hit, all for a promised payment of $100,000. Rivera, who eventually pleaded guilty in exchange for his testimony, laid out the entire plot for investigators. He confirmed Magbanua was the woman in the middle doing everything, and said the reason for the hit was simple. The lady wants her 2 kids back. Over the next several years, the dominoes fell one by one. Sigfrido Garcia was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Catherine Magbanua, after an initial mistrial, was also found guilty and received a life sentence. Then in 2023, the family fixer, Charlie Adelson, was convicted of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation, and sentenced to life behind bars. Through it all, Donna Adelson remained on the sidelines, a silent, stoic supporter of her son. But her world was about to implode. Just days after Charlie's conviction, Donna and her husband Harvey were arrested at Miami International Airport. Bodycam footage captured the dramatic moment they were stopped on the jetway while trying to board a one-way flight to Vietnam, a country with no formal extradition treaty with the United States. For prosecutors, this was the ultimate admission of guilt, a desperate attempt to flee the justice that was finally closing
No, I don't want to give it to you. Why do I have to give it? Why do I have to give it to you? This is evidence. Evidence matters. She's under arrest. I have to go with. I have to go. I have to go. You don't have to show it. I'm helping you. I have to stay. Please stop it. You need to grab the bags. Take the bags. Yeah. You need to wait outside. Okay.
My husband's almost 80 years old. He can't come with me.
Please, can I help? No, you can't join me there. Oh, don't do this, please.
Please.
Oh,
Someone's got to help him get home. This is terrible. You can't do this. This is
hold on to that for me. Okay with you? Please. You don't have that with handcuffs on. Back on everyone. Please. Please. Do you have anything in your pocket?
No.
Do you have anything of value in you?
No, I
Plus, you have my necklace on. You
Wanna go?
can take it off. I'll take it.
Yeah, take it off.
Donna Adelson's trial began in the late summer of 2025. Prosecutors laid out a mountain of evidence collected over a decade. They played wiretapped phone calls filled with coded language, presented financial records showing payments from the Adelsons' dental practice to Catherine Magbanua, and detailed an FBI sting where an undercover agent, posing as a blackmailer, approached Donna to gauge her knowledge of the murder. Her defense team argued the evidence was purely circumstantial and that Donna was nothing more than a loving grandmother trapped in a web spun by her son and others. But the prosecution painted a damning picture of a calculating and controlling woman consumed by her daughter's custody battle, a woman who would stop at nothing to get her way. Throughout the trial, one person remained a central figure, though she has never been charged. Wendy Adelson, who prosecutors have named as an unindicted co-conspirator.
Did you go to the crime scene or very near the crime scene on your way from your residence to, I guess, to lunch or to wherever you were going next?
No, I did not.
So you never turned on Trescott Drive that day?
I went to turn on Trescott Drive, but I saw that it had been blocked off by some tape, and so I just kept driving on Centerville.
Okay, and when you had to turn around at the tape, right, to go back out?
I think I tried to turn right, and it couldn't turn, so I would have made like the kind of turn, like a K-turn, and kept going.
Was there a roadblock there with?
There was tape.
Yeah, and an officer was there?
I didn't see an officer, but I did see a car.
A law enforcement marked vehicle? Okay, did you have any contact with the officer?
No.
Okay. Did you do anything after that to try to find out what was going on down that roadway?
No, I just assumed it was weather. Maybe.
On September 4, 2025, after deliberating for just 3 hours, the jury returned its verdict. As the court clerk read the decision, Donna Adelson, the 75-year-old grandmother who had held her composure for a decade, finally broke. Guilty of first-degree murder. A gasp echoed through the courtroom. It came from Donna. Her eyes widened in disbelief and she began shaking, her whispers of, "Oh my God, audible as she dissolved into hysterical sobs. The judge briefly stopped the proceedings, warning her that there would be no more outbursts. But it was too late. The stoic matriarch was gone, replaced by a convicted killer, her meticulously crafted world destroyed by a single word.
Is in its proper order. At this time, I will publish the verdict. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself. Count 2. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 2 of the indictment, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Count 3. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 3 of the indictment, solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. And it is signed and dated by the foreperson. One moment. Members of the jury, the bailiff will escort you to the jury room. Mrs. Adelson, while this was not the outcome I'm sure that you desired, there will not be any further outbursts in front of the jury. If you cannot control yourself, I am going to have to determine if you will be removed from the...
Later, Dan Markel's mother, Ruth, delivered a heart-wrenching victim impact statement while looking at the woman who orchestrated her son's murder. "We have lost a treasure," she said, her voice heavy with the weight of a decade of pain. The convictions of Donna Adelson and her co-conspirators brought a decade-long fight for justice to a close. Do you think justice was served for Dan Markel? Let us know your thoughts in the comments and be sure to hit that like button. For more deep dives into true crime stories, make sure you subscribe to our channel. In the end, 5 people have been convicted for their roles in the murder of Dan Markel. His sons, the very children at the center of this tragedy, are growing up without their father. The Adelson family, once a symbol of wealth and prominence in South Florida, is now a name synonymous with a horrific crime born from resentment and obsession. While the legal saga for most of the conspirators is over, one question still hangs in the air. Dan Markel's ex-wife, Wendy Adelson, has been named by prosecutors as an unindicted co-conspirator, but she has never been charged and has always denied any involvement. Whether she will ever face a jury remains to be seen. For now, the story of the killer grandma is a chilling reminder of how a family's desperate need for control can lead to devastating and permanent consequences.